It's 2006. Nas, one of the greatest rappers of all time, had declared that hip-hop is dead. This was the title of his 2006 album, where he made some scathing comments about where hip-hop was headed and allegedly took shots at the southern hip-hop scene. Nas is a rapper who really needs no introduction. His debut album, Illmatic, is seen as the gold standard of hip-hop and raised the bar in terms of rap lyrics and how creative and complex they could be. But Nas' career would have a mix of highs and lows. His three subsequent albums, It Was Written, I Am, and Nostradamus, didn't reach the same heights as Illmatic, and Nostradamus is considered a particularly weak effort. In Jay-Z's 2001 diss track Takeover, he said Nas had one hot album every 10-year average. But later that year, Nas released Stillmatic, which is considered a classic, or at least within reaching distance of the levels he achieved with Illmatic. And by 2006, Nas' relevance in hip-hop was slowly fading. In an interview with Rolling Stone, Nas was described as rap's savior, its greatest disappointment, and its big comeback. And whether he wanted to reclaim his status in hip-hop or simply didn't care anymore, he decided to controversially name his 2006 album, Hip Hop Is Dead. In this Rolling Stone interview prior to the album's release, he was asked to explain the album title. He was asked point blank, "Is hip hop dead?" Nas replied, "It's beyond hip hop. Music is dead. My wife," referring to his now ex-wife Kellis, "says to me, R&B is dead. She's inspired me more than anybody to call this record Hip Hop Is Dead. We're nothing compared to the guys who came before us. Our stage performances suck. We grab a mic, walk back and forth with our hands in the air, which hasn't progressed since Run DMC. You used to feel A Tribe Called Quest, but you go see one of the artists today and you get the same regurgitated garbage. We were doing something for a minute, but now it's all effed up." And this interview turned a lot of heads. In 2006, the internet was not as ever-present as it is today, so magazine interviews were a big deal. Nas, one of the greatest MCs of all time, had just referred to hip-hop, at that time, as regurgitated garbage. So, who was he taking shots at? Well, he wasn't taking shots at Jay-Z. They had quashed their beef, and Nas was now signed to Jay-Z's label Def Jam. In terms of which rappers were popular at that time, Kanye West produced one of the songs on the album, so it was unlikely that he was referring to him. Similarly, The Game also featured on the album, and could be ruled out too. It was generally assumed that Nas was taking shots at the new direction hip-hop was taking, where music from the South was finally getting the limelight. Southern hip-hop was not as deep and lyrical as Nas' music, with an emphasis on beats and vibes, rather than the structure of lyrics that Nas was accustomed to. Prominent rappers from the South such as Jeezy, T.I., Ludacris, and Lil Wayne were the most likely culprits in the quote-unquote death of hip-hop, although as Ludacris at least, and Lil Wayne, even T.I., more seen today as lyricists, at that point, they were relatively looked down upon, and the YouTube comment sections from those years will give you that sentiment. Jeezy thought that if Nas was taking shots at the entire scene from the South, he was the person who was going to step forward and defend it. Speaking on the Bridge podcast, Jeezy recalled, "I wanted to be the front guy and say what I said. At the time, you gotta think, I'm just getting on. I'm just seeing my first legitimate money. I'm just getting my shows going. And then you got the Don in New York saying hip hop is dead?" The album's title alone was enough to stir up controversy, and Jeezy was willing to fight back even before the album was released. In December 2006, he was interviewed by the radio station Beat 103 FM and was also asked, "Is hip hop dead?" Jeezy said, "I don't think hip hop is dead at all. It's just a new day and time. It's a new story. It's a new movement." He then addresses Nas and says, "I'ma respect his craft. He ain't gonna respect mine." And when Jeezy decided to throw shots at Nas, he knew that he could not come after Nas for his music and rapping ability. He decided to question the lifestyle Nas led and whether he really has lived the lifestyle that his music speaks on. Jeezy said, "Has Nas did anything he talk about? Has Nas been on the block? Do Nas have street credibility? Is any of his homies in the feds?" After finishing this interview, Jeezy gets into his car and his phone rings. He's received a call from Def Jam, and the voice on the other line said, "Nas wanna holla at you." He's on the phone. At this moment, Jeezy's visualizing what's ahead of him. This is 5 years after Nas released Ether, his diss track against Jay-Z. It's so iconic that ethered is now a verb to describe humiliating someone in a diss track. He was ready for war. When he answered the phone, Nas said, "What's up, King?" Nas's tone was surprisingly friendly. In fact, Nas had not called Jay-Z to come at him. Instead, he wanted to clear things up. Nas said, "I can understand your frustration, but let me explain what I'm saying and how it has nothing to do with you." But it wasn't just Jeezy that was responding to Nas. In an interview with MTV, Ludacris said, "I don't feel hip-hop is dead. I feel like the South is keeping it alive." What we do is hip-hop. Some people may not feel that way. You gotta respect some people's opinion, but hey, you gotta stay to your opinion in the game. Ludacris added, because the South is dominating it right now. Saying that hip-hop is dead is like saying the South is dead too. They may not like some of the music going on in the South, but everyone in the South is saying, we are keeping it alive. At the end of the day, hip-hop is what you make it. What we do in the South isn't hip-hop. That's what some people think. We think it is. Some people say it's country rap tunes. Hip-hop is what you make it. And it didn't end there. When performing at the BET Hip Hop Awards, Ludacris wore a t-shirt saying, hip-hop ain't dead, it lives in the South. But if Nas claims that he wasn't taking shots at the South, who was he talking about? On the 19th of December 2006, we were going to find out. In record stores across the US, an album was now on sale with a picture of Nas dropping a rose on hip-hop's grave. The question on everyone's mind were finally going to be answered. Hip Hop is Dead is also the name of a song on the album, which should give the best explanation of what he was talking about. To the backdrop of organ music you might hear at a funeral, he repeatedly chants, roll up the station, wreck the DJ, so the people who have killed hip-hop may be DJs on the radio, but that's all we really know so far. Even in the song Hip Hop is Dead, Nas doesn't go into specific detail about how and why hip hop is dead. In the song Carry On Tradition, we get a much clearer picture. He's talked about how by 2006, a lot of the pioneers of hip hop, whose styles are being replicated by successful rappers today, are broke. He raps, some rap pioneers be them crackheads. When they speak, you see missing teeth. And they pants still hanging down their legs talking about they ain't paid. He also makes the point that rappers are being exploited, and it's the labels and the record executives that are taking a bigger piece of the pie. Hip-hop been dead, we the reason it died. Wasn't Sylvia's fault or because MC's skills are lost, it's because we can't see ourselves as the boss, deep-rooted through slavery, self-hatred. In the song Who Killed It, Nas is still rapping in codified messages that are difficult to unravel. The song takes the form of a classic movie where hip-hop is a woman who has been killed, and there's a series of names you would expect from an old mob movie throughout the song. From what I can gather, he makes reference to the fact that while Biggie and Tupac were competing and literally trying to kill one another, while other people were making most of the money. He raps, while these two compete on who's the star of the show, Golden Legs there makes off with the dough. And had Nas not clarified that he wasn't taking shots at the South, another verse on this song would have led everyone to believe that's exactly what he was doing. Joe the Butcher's my ace, but in comes Freckleface, so I said see you later. Before I heard him and his two ugly thumb breakers. He met them in Louisiana wrestling gators. An idiot can tell they're involved with the caper. Here he's saying that people from Louisiana, the very state Lil Wayne is from, were involved in the murder of hip-hop. If Nas wasn't throwing shots at the South, he really didn't do himself any favors with this line. When the reviews came out, they were genuinely positive. Most of them came under the lines of, it's no Illmatic, but it's still great. The Chicago Tribune also posted a feature that got opinions from rappers in their area to give their thoughts. And these are rappers who would do a better job at decoding what Nas was trying to say. Rhymefest said, people used to say rock and roll was dead. I do think rap music is in danger of losing its authenticity. Nobody believes in it. No one believes that when a rapper makes a statement, we mean it. We're looked at as clowns. It's almost embarrassing to tell people I rhyme. According to LP, I didn't take Nas' statement literally. I took it as him posing a hard question about something he loves. Nas knows hip-hop music isn't dead. It's just in need of rediscovering its bravery. Brother Ali said, Nas isn't saying hip-hop doesn't exist anymore. He's saying that it's lost its power to educate and empower people. I think he made that statement to the people in the industry to let them know that, as a whole, they've lost their way. The album put Nas in the spotlight once again, but didn't go much further than that. The rappers from the South understood what he was saying wasn't necessarily aimed at them, and nothing escalated further from it. And for obvious reasons, not many people wanted to start a rap battle with Nas either. But the album still needed clarifying. There were still some unexplained questions that still lingered, and in 2019, Nas appeared on the Drink Champs podcast and Nori asked him what he meant by hip-hop is dead. Nas says, we didn't have no control, and it's like, a lot of people took offense to it that I didn't think was going to take offense. There was so many people in control of where this thing was going, and I thought we've had a great time to turn this thing around. DJ FN chimes in and summarizes what he's saying as, the culture was not controlling hip-hop. To which Nas agreed. Nas looks back at the Hip Hop is Dead as a message he could have clarified a lot better. Interestingly, a review in Pitchfork wrote, in the end, Hip Hop is Dead is the album I'll give to people in 20 years when they ask who Nas was. More than Illmatic, it represents the real Nas, not the ideal, the MC with all the skill, all the rhymes, and all the insight who sabotaged himself with bad decisions. There aren't too many here, which is why I'll recommend it. But even 20 years later, you don't need to tell people who Nas is. There are people who weren't born when Illmatic was released who listen to him now, and through his King's Disease album series, he's managed to revitalize his career. In 2022, while promoting King's Disease 3, Nas was much more optimistic about hip-hop. He spoke on The Daily Show and said, "It's a beautiful culture and I love all of it. So I think we should all as writers get out of your comfort zone and spread your wings and expand with your sound." And that's what Nas did with Hip Hop Is Dead. He took a risk, and it didn't pay off exactly how he probably would have liked it to, but it's more admirable of Nas to take a massive risk like that than to rest on his laurels and continue doing more of the same as before. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had this revitalization of his career. In 2023, both hip-hop and Nas are turning 50 years old. Despite half a century passing, both of them continue to be relevant and continue to inspire.